Imagine waking up and finding that 26 social media apps are suddenly shut down. Within just 48 hours, your capital is on fire, the Prime Minister has resigned, and the army is on the streets. This is Nepal right now. In the next few minutes, I'll explain how it all started, who is involved, what protesters demanded, how the government responded, and most importantly, where the country could be headed next. This isn't just a local story, it is a snapshot of how youth activism, social media, and long-running political grievances can collide and actually unseat entire governments. Let's start from the beginning. In the first week of September, Nepal's government ordered the shutdown of 26 social media platforms, everything from Facebook, X, YouTube, and LinkedIn to Reddit and even Snapchat. Officials claimed it was about registration and new rules from the Communications Ministry, but for a young social media native generation already angry about corruption and cronyism, this was like pouring fuel on fire. Gen Z users had been circulating viral posts and memes about Nepo kids and elite privilege. The shutdown looked like a political move to silence scrutiny, and that one step lit the spark. Soon, large gatherings erupted in Kathmandu, at Matigarh, Mandal, outside Parliament, and across university hubs. At first, these were peaceful rallies demanding transparency and the right to be heard. But security forces quickly intervened with tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets. Reports emerged of live rounds fired into the crowd. The protest escalated. Dozens were killed, hundreds injured. Government buildings, including parts of the federal parliament complex, were breached and set on fire. The international airport in Kathmandu closed temporarily. A nationwide curfew was imposed, and the army rolled out into the streets to restore order. So what was behind these protests? Here is the surprising part. Unlike many uprisings led by a single party, these demonstrations were largely leaderless. They were driven by young people, students, and digital networks. Civic groups such as Hami Nepal helped organize peaceful rallies, but thousands more simply showed up after seeing calls online. The style of the protest told its own story. Protesters carried manga flags, pop culture symbols, and handwritten signs. This was very much a Gen Z uprising. Political parties scrambled to respond. Some MPs resigned in solidarity. Others were accused of infiltrating or hijacking the movement. The demands grew rapidly. At first, it was just about lifting the social media ban, but soon the list expanded. Mass resignations of corrupt politicians, accountability for state violence, prosecution of those who ordered lethal force, better jobs and economic opportunities for young people, an end to nepotism, and deep anti-corruption reforms. So how did the government respond? At first, with force, curfews, crackdowns, live ammunition. Within 2 days, the Communications Ministry lifted the social media ban. But by then, it was too late. The Home Minister resigned. Under intense pressure, the Prime Minister himself resigned as well. The army was deployed to protect critical infrastructure, and entire cities were placed under curfew. Today, the immediate crisis has cooled, but the underlying anger is far from over. The Prime Minister has stepped down. Some ministers are gone. The ban is reversed. But protesters don't trust the political class anymore. The army is still patrolling. Talks are underway about forming an interim or caretaker government. Civil society, the president, and even the military are trying to mediate. So, where could this lead? There are two possible paths. The optimistic path. A neutral interim government is formed. It promises electoral integrity, launches anti-corruption inquiries, creates youth employment programs, and reforms digital and transparency laws that could channel all this protest energy into rebuilding institutions. The pessimistic path. Politicians fail to compromise. Protest fragment. Violence escalates. Heavy-handed crackdowns erode democracy. The economy suffers. Tourism and investment collapse and frustrations deepen. Which path Nepal takes depends on whether leaders listen to the demands of the street or keep playing politics as usual. And who could be the next leaders? With mainstream parties badly damaged, three possibilities emerge. A technocratic caretaker prime minister, someone neutral who can guide reforms and elections. A unity coalition from existing parties with new pledges for youth inclusion, or a new generation of civic leaders and protest figures who step into the political arena. Predicting names is risky, but one thing is clear: the vacuum has created space for new faces. Now, what lessons can other nations learn from Nepal's upheaval? First, digital policy matters. Heavy-handed bans ignite more resistance than they suppress. Second, youth and social media are catalytic. Governments that ignore them do so at their own risk. Third, force is politically dangerous. Civilian deaths escalate unrest. Fourth, when trust in politicians evaporates, institutions need credible, transparent solutions. And fifth, anti-corruption reforms must be real and visible. Symbolic gestures aren't enough. So what should we watch next? Three things: the makeup of any interim or caretaker government, whether those responsible for violence are actually held accountable, and what urgent steps are taken to give young Nepalis jobs and hope. Those three will decide whether this movement becomes a turning point for stronger democracy or just the start of a longer cycle of instability. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, subscribe and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments, what do you think is the most likely future for Nepal?